Chad, in the world of Beyond the Arc, our guest in studio, well, it's just money.
Yeah, he's a man that wears many hats, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
He was one of the all-time leading scorers in Vanderbilt basketball history, local legend here in Nashville from Goodpasture High School. And he's a man who speaks to businesses, talks about leadership. He's coached at a high level, at the high school level, and just all-around hooper is Drew Maddox. Like, when I think of basketball locally, I think of this guy right here, Drew Maddox, who knows all about the NCAA tournament as well, follows all these teams year-round. Drew, safe to say that you are a basketball lifer. Like, this is one of your biggest passions in life. You watch these teams starting in November.
No doubt. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
I mean, this is just a thrill. I love being a part of what you guys are doing. So congratulations to all your success, and thanks for having me on. But yeah, Chad, before I was even probably thought about by my parents, basketball's been in the DNA in our family. I mean, you go back generationally, even to my great-grandfather, grandfather, father. I mean, Nashville, particularly Vanderbilt, the game of basketball and sport. I mean, it's just been in the fabric of our house. And so as long as I could ever remember, I tell people all the time at bedtime, parents would tell their kids stories of historical lessons or figures or fixtures. My dad told stories of Vanderbilt legends, and that's what we went to bed at night doing. So, yeah, college sports, college athletics, basketball has been a big part of my story for as long as I can remember.
You love the game.
Eating up with it.
Yeah, and so I've always said with college football, as long as Saturday feels like Saturday, whatever's going on is fine. It's not bothering me being a fan. Do you, just at your core, do you think in today's era, players love the game, or they're just playing because they're good at it?
Yeah.
Have we seen a shift in that weight?
I have a little bit, and I will say I wish I was 30 years younger. Let's just say that. Yeah. I mean, because gosh, if you were an All SEC player in the late '90s and now in modern day, what would my value be? It'd be pretty good.
Well, weren't you freshman All SEC or freshman All American or something?
Yeah, and first team All SEC. So if you're a first
think
team
about
All
that
SEC
as a freshman, though, Drew. Like now,
if
it was like, Kentucky and Duke are coming after this guy, and he's a local kid. Like, you could get an agent and demand millions, to stay at Vanderbilt. And that's for every kid out there.
Well,
right?
But to your point, it has made it highly transactional instead of this transformative experience that shaped me, as a person. And the long-term value of what basketball did as a player. So forget about being a coach for a minute.
Right.
I played up until I was 22. I retired because whether it was forced or my choice, I was a retired basketball player competitively at that point. So my career's over. But what basketball did for me, just in and through the experience of what I learned, that has been leveraged for the last 30 plus years of my life. But what I hate is that the short-term gain is far outweighing anything that is long-term being forged in these kids' stories. And I do believe that. And I hate that because sport is the best teaching tool, I believe, that exists. It's the ultimate classroom. And that is being thrown out the window in modern day. Yeah,
it's like a post-game stat sheet now. But like your NIL is a stat now. Like growing up in the backyard, Chad, it's like, we want to set the new record. We want to make the game-winning shot. But you also want to make the most on your roster. Like that's one of the check marks now.
And we're definitely going to get into this tournament and Vanderbilt and a lot of other things. But you've hit on something here, Drew, that makes me think. And I'm the dad of two young kids, and one I coach and travel softball right now. And I see this a lot with parents also. And with different people, right, it's normalizing a selfishness that we see like in society and sports, that like so many people with a microphone are just like, you got to go do what's best for you and take $5 extra to go over there, even though you may be costing yourself this experience, this lesson, this whatever by staying where you are. Whereas I feel like, and I don't want to sound like we're ancient or old, but like when we grew up,
but we are.
Yeah, but it was like, man, there's a value in staying. There's a value in sticking and playing. There's a value in even going through the tough times. Charles Barkley making fun of LeBron James for going to all these different teams and teaming up with rivals, where he's saying that's wasn't the way we thought when we played basketball back in the day, right? Like, but the other side of that is now normalized, and you see it all over the sport.
Yeah, I will tell you, I still go back to, the first semester at Vanderbilt, you just said I was all SEC freshman, right, Chad? That's what you said.
Yes.
And I was blessed to do that. That was great. But that first semester was a struggle. It was a grind. It was a challenge. And I still remember sitting in Scottsdale, Arizona. We had played Arizona State my freshman year with a pizza in my lap, about to head back to the FBO to fly back to Nashville. And for the first time in my life, I did not play in a game, and it was the coach's decision. And that was on December the 29th, 1994. It's a moment I will never forget. 7 days later, we played Alabama, who was ranked in the top 5 in America, 3 first-round draft picks. We went in double overtime in a game that was unbelievable. My favorite, probably Memorial Magic moment in my lifetime. But I think about now today how quick it would have been for me to make an excuse, to want to hit the eject button, to get out of that situation. But it was in the fight, in the challenge, in the struggle, to have to pick yourself back up. That's where I learned like all the things that I'm helping my 5 kids with and what I've learned in my story. But to y'all's point, I just think those lessons are being lessened. Those lessons are being lessened. And I hate seeing that, because I just firmly believe that the landscape of college athletics has dramatically shifted to the point where the classroom experience and what you can learn is just not happening anymore.
But okay, so man, that's a great way to put that.
Yeah, lessons being lessened. I'll remember that. Are you willing? Can you watch the game and the perception is it's still what it was? That's what I'm getting at. Is I can. I feel like the game is like O's Perlman, and I'm trying to figure out the trick.
Yes.
But I'm in on it. It's not he's not reading my mind. It is a magic trick. But and
every team feels different too.
Yeah,
like you can watch one team and feel like, boy, this team's connected.
Yes,
they're with it. They're and then another team, it's like something's off.
Yeah,
with this group
and coaches in the merry-go-round. Like this tournament, I will watch like I watched in the late '90s.
Absolutely.
And I'm willing to, and I'm sitting here admitting that in the moment, I will erase everything that I'm saying about the game behind the scenes.
Right. I can't appreciate present moment and watch the game, the art and science and the beauty to me. Yes, I can. But to your point, the stories of watching somebody that has been in a program 2, 3, 4 years that you fall in love with, I don't know
the guys.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just different. But so yes, I can appreciate it. I love modern day basketball. If we want to get real geeky, and I can nerd out on the technical aspects of it. And so I'll look for those things. I'll watch those things. But the stories of what makes the event special, I do believe has been eliminated. Now, I do appreciate the game. It's March Madness. It's the bracket. It's all the things. But guys, I mean, look at it this way too. Like, why do we love the bracket? Well, you love the bracket the first weekend because you love the Cinderella story. You guys are talking about Miami and their chances of playing it. Who's going to be the upset? Well, last year, only 11 teams were picked by the country in every bracket ever filled out. 11 teams showed up on a third of the brackets as upsets, 11 through 16 seed. This year, only 2. So basically what I'm saying is the gap is widening. The belief in the Cinderella story is going away because the rich are getting richer. Good is getting better. And so I think you have to watch the game as an appreciative fan for the game and not necessarily just look for the Cinderella story.
Yeah.
Before we get into the tournament and teams that are playing, and I want to get into one team not playing in the tournament, that's Auburn. I feel like you could have a Netflix docuseries on the transition from Bruce Pearl to his son, Stephen Pearl, in this first season. Right now he's got a star player who just opted out of the NIT and didn't tell anybody and didn't show up to practice, didn't show up for the game, and isn't playing, and Keyshawn Murphy. What do you think when you look at the whole situation there at Auburn, Drew? All the success of Bruce Pearl, obviously he wants to help his son, who he feels like is ready to be a head coach, but all the difficulties with that team. I talked about, you watch certain teams, they feel different. Just watch them on the court. That's a team that I watch and I feel like, it's not there.
Yeah.
Right? There's a disconnect between the coach and the players. There's not the respect factor that you really need. And I saw that consistently with that Auburn team. What do you think when you watch that team this year and that whole situation?
Yeah, I think, a lot of times, obviously Coach Pearl wanted to set him up for success, but I think he also set him up for the inability to have success. When you look at it, the eve before the night of the first practice, and that you're set up that way that you're moving one seat over. People think it's just one seat, but when you move from the associate head coach or the assistant coach to the head coach, that's hard enough. But being this fixture's son, I think, is incredibly hard. you got to couple that too, Chad, and you got to think about Chad Pruitt was a little bit of the secret sauce on that staff. He stepped away from the staff this year. He is not on Auburn's staff. He was the glue that really allowed that program. Yeah, Bruce Pearl and who he was, but make no mistake about it. Behind the scenes, Chad Pruitt was the guy that kept that thing together. He also stepped away with Coach Pearl. So you take both of those factors and you have the son who is the assistant coach. I just think there was a lot of factors that were set up for him to have the ability to have success. Not making an excuse for him, but that's just my perspective of it. I do believe that not having Chad Pruitt on that staff was a big, big piece of that gets lost in the story.
Vanderbilt, great season for Vandy. I talked about how this is no fluke. This is no Cinderella story. That's a legitimately really good roster that's well coached and together. And you know as well as anybody, there's an infrastructure now in place at Vanderbilt that's always been there, but now the wheels of the machines are turning in Vanderbilt's favor in that basketball program. How long-term of a setup is this right now for Vanderbilt with what you see behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think it's set up for long-term success. I believe this is my basic leadership philosophy. Everything rises and falls with leadership. And I believe we have at the highest level, our chancellor is focused and dedicated and invested in excellence programmatically across the board in everything that the university will touch. And so then you take it down a level, you look at Candace Story-Lee. I believe at this moment in time, she has done an outstanding job. She is the right leader in the right position, the right seat on the bus. Then you drop it down a level and what they've been able to do to attract unbelievable coaches. So I believe leadership is key, yes. But number two, to your point, Chad, the resources in the investment. I don't know, because I get asked all the time around Nashville, what took so long?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
Especially in basketball.
Yeah, I can just tell you this. It feels pretty dang good right now, and it tastes pretty good. And we're very thankful for that. I do believe Tim Corbin was a big part of this, because if he doesn't say yes and do what he had done, I believe that started to even attract more of the resource investment, more of the coaches that saw what he was doing and said, yes, you can do that in the Vanderbilt experience. And then the donors jumped on board as well. And so when you look across, it's not just the four main sports. Obviously, in other sports as well, Vanderbilt has made a commitment. It does feel good. And I do believe foundationally, they are set up to leverage that for success for a long time.
What do we know what they're, Chad, you mentioned the finances of Vandy. I mentioned that Tennessee and Miami of Ohio, there's the biggest gap, the largest gap. In terms of like where Vanderbilt's gap would be in their matchup.
Well, I don't know.
It's like top 15.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
It was 11th, I think.
11th. There you go. 11th,
list,
yes.
Yeah,
and I'll pull up in just a second. But like, how much has that jumped? Like, if we're talking about investment, Drew, put that in perspective for me. Like where it was
Vandy
versus
rank in the SEC?
Just look at it this way. So even take it at a macro level. Go higher than athletics. Vanderbilt is a top 20 endowment school in the country. So just take that. If you look at the SEC, take Texas and Texas A&M out of the equation, Vanderbilt's number 3 in all the SEC in terms of just collective resources at your disposal. Vanderbilt has it. I mean, if you talk about a treasure chest, they have been sitting on one forever. So you got that in as a financial engine behind it all. Then you start to say, oh my gosh, look at what we can do. This does taste pretty good. Fans start to get invested. They did the Vanderbilt United campaign. They raised $300 million very quickly. And all of a sudden they start to put that and deploy those resources. You start to see the success. Now it starts to just foster itself. So in terms of Vanderbilt basketball, now drop it down to today's game.
Right.
I mean, what Vanderbilt basketball is, you're looking at, I think it's an 8-figure proposition for Vanderbilt basketball, all in. You're looking at, that means that's a $10 million plus endeavor that is taking place. When would you ever think Vanderbilt would be in the top percentage of the SEC? That puts them in the top third of SEC teams in terms of resource allocation for basketball alone. That's insane. And I don't think the Vanderbilt fan ever thought there would be a day that they would see that level of investment in an athletic offering, much less athletics in general.
And shifting the whole paradigm of what you think about a program, right? Like, we're from here, so we know the value of Nashville. We know the value of Vanderbilt basketball. We've seen the good times. We've seen the bad times. But nationally, Drew, how do you shake the stigma well, this is an underperforming program or they don't care as much about athletics. How quickly can that change in this new era that we're in where money is the biggest factor moving forward for all these programs?
Yeah, I mean, you win, and that's what they've continued to do. And so all of a sudden, the story begins to be told culturally, and now people start to peel back the layers. Are like, wait a minute. So families that are looking, players that are looking, other people that are looking at this program, they start to peel back the layers, and they're like, oh my gosh, this thing has more to offer than I could ever imagine. They are in this city, in this conference. You get this level education. Oh my gosh, look at the level of resources that are now have been built and constructed. And I get to play for this leader. You start to really look at the value proposition collectively. I think it's hard to measure anybody else against what Vanderbilt has to offer present day in terms of the success was the last piece that was missing. And now they're starting to have it. So I think you're going to continue to see the attraction of more and more people that are interested in the Vanderbilt story.
Let's talk a little Tennessee. You are what you are at this point in the season. I think Tennessee, they are what they are, right? And we've got a lot of evidence of what this team is. What is this team in the context of a Rick Barnes team when you watch them, Drew? Because there's a clear identity with Rick Barnes, what he wants, the players that he brings into his program. Where does this team fit in that, and what do you think about now this matchup with a possible Cinderella in Miami of Ohio?
Yeah, and let me couch this and say I love Rick Barnes. I've known Rick Barnes a very long time, going back to when he's at Texas. But this team,
I don't know many people that don't love Rick Barnes. I mean, he's got a lot of friends.
This team is what his teams have been. This team can defend. This team can show up and rebound the basketball. But in moments when they struggle, they cannot score the basketball. Particularly, they cannot shoot it from the perimeter. If you go and look at statistically at what they've done, when they score 83 points or more, they're undefeated. So the idea is if Tennessee can score the basketball, they win. They will do the rest of it. So today or tomorrow when they play Miami, it is a contrast with what we saw Miami last night. You start to read the metrics. But can Tennessee score enough ultimately to win games in the bracket? They've done it a couple of times, but what has tripped them up in the bracket in previous years is against Duke. I still go back to that visual where they cannot score the basketball from the perimeter. So Gillespie, he's going to chuck in shots. Is Ament going to be able to give you enough production? Because that is the question, is can they score the basketball and produce enough on the offensive end?
How much talk is there about Rick Barnes' retirement? Just in the coaching, because you're in a lot of coaching circles, and the coaching community, is there an idea, there's a plan of a successor for Tennessee? Does it go wide open to a national search? How do people talk about that?
Yeah, I had heard that this was going to be the last year. And then in the last week, being around the SEC tournament and being around all of my buddies in and outside of basketball, I heard one more year. I heard that it's going to he is going to come back to Knoxville for one more year. But to your point, Chad, I do believe we're seeing the beginning of the end of what has been an incredible career. But I do believe retirement is imminent for him.
Why one more year? Was it investment? Is it him doing Tennessee a favor because they want a year to get? Yeah, what is it?
Maybe it's a segue year. Maybe it's a transitional year. I heard Coach Gainey is going to leave and is getting the Georgia Tech job, and so maybe that was more stability standpoint. Okay. I don't know. But I just had heard that maybe one more year coming back to Knoxville was on the board and was going to be the mentality around the program.
And see, when I heard the Gainey to Georgia Tech possibility, I'm thinking, is that the successor? Could you work something out and say, hey, don't take that job,
right? Because
I'm leaving in a year, right? So I don't know. Trying to read the tea leaves, if he stays, I feel like what you're saying could be a possibility where Rick Barnes leaves in a year and Justin Gainey is going to be the successor to him in Knoxville. You were talking about contrasting styles also. Yep. Let's go to another matchup. McNeese won a year ago as a 12 seed.
Yes.
They play Vandy today. But, Drew, you're saying this is two very different teams of how they get the job done.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bill Armstrong, who's the head coach now, was with Will Reid at LSU. I've known Bill for a long time. He was at Ole Miss under Andy Kennedy. His lead assistant, Robbie Coker, is one of my great coaching friends, and they've done an outstanding job in year one. But they do it in a unique way. If you watch McNeese today against Vanderbilt, one of the most offensive, efficient teams in all of basketball, top 10 nationally. I think they're at 7 going into this tournament in terms of what they're able to do. But what McNeese does is they generate turnovers at a rate that is number 1 in the country. They can turn you over. Their steal rate and what they do, but they do it also in a unique way that if they don't generate steals and turnovers, they make you have long possessions, which is unique because you would think a high turnover force team plays quick, pressures the basketball, generates steals in the backcourt. They don't do that. They make you play long possessions. And so Vanderbilt being one of the best caretakers of the basketball, turnover rate being really low, offensive efficient, the strength of the team being Ty Tanner, obviously Duke Miles, it's going to be a contrast to see which style really wins out. I do believe Vanderbilt's just too much. The backcourt's too good for that to be bothersome to Vanderbilt, but it will be interesting to see.
All right, you mentioned 11 teams were upset picks or whatever last year.
Yep.
2 this year. Who are the 2?
I don't know who the 2 was. I just read
the step. Who would your 2 be?
I mean, my 2, I had Akron was one of mine.
All right.
And it escapes me now. They play Texas Tech. Because
how much of that is injury problems?
Well, I was going to say that because of not to say that I'm an astute Akron zip.
And this is an 11 seed.
Tell us about the MAC, Drew. I know you're watching every game of the MAC all year.
I picked them, but just because of JT Toppin being hurt, and obviously Christian Anderson's a good player. But I had Akron, so 11 and below, and I just Santa Clara, I can't go there. I know that's a 10, but I believe Kentucky's ripe to be beaten today. But the other one to me was
I'm looking through the bracket right
hold
now.
On. Oh, South Florida over Louisville.
Okay.
That was the other one for me that I thought Louisville's had some injuries as well.
One of their top guards is down, right?
Yeah, so I mean I thought South Florida being an 11 and Akron being a 12. Those would be my 2.
What's the health the health factor of Duke's roster? Factors in what to you in the first 2 games?
I don't think not as much first 2 games. I think Caleb Foster obviously is out with a broken foot. He's not coming back. But you have a serviceable that he was already sharing time with in Boozer anyway. So I think that's fine. The big fella's coming back. He's going to play with a sore foot. They may watch him a little bit against obviously a 16 seed in Siena, but they're going to they'll monitor his minutes. But he'll be ready at Sweet 16 and below and beyond.
Man, I'm looking at the first 1 seed. I'm going chalk. I don't know where you got your, but Chad and I were talking about upsets, like how far we have certain teams going. And I'm like, man, where would these guys be tripped up, and who would it be? And I mean, for whatever reason, no one's talking about Arizona all of a sudden.
Which Arizona was my national champion pick, by the way.
Okay,
Okay, so let's get into this.
Duke's banged up a little. So where would we go?
Arkansas. With this? I've got Arkansas in the Final Four, and this could be recency bias based on the run in Nashville in the SEC tournament. But Drew, I watched them, especially that final stretch against Vandy, and I'm thinking Darius Acuff Jr. might be the best guard John Calipari's ever coached in college.
1,000%. Yeah, I was so impressed. That game was 72-70. They went to the media timeout at 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Arkansas outscores them 13-2 to finish that game off. But to your point, Chad, when you have a guard that's generational like that, I mean, this is a guard tournament. I mean, it just is, and it matters. And that guy always is going to give you a shot. Now, the question is, can the other guys make enough shots to keep them in it? Against Vanderbilt, they go 15-24 and shoot 62% from the 3. Brazil and Wagner make shots and they keep it honest. But other than those guys, can they get enough? They only play 7 players. He does not go beyond those top 7. And can they stay healthy enough and out of foul trouble to make sure that they're in these games for Acuff to be special?
And the matchups would be potentially Wisconsin coming up for them if Wisconsin.
Which Wisconsin has a great backcourt, by the way, too.
Okay,
fantastic.
And then you would end up with the matchup with Arizona.
Yeah,
right. If you get through, that would be Sweet 16. So that goes to, so you've got champion for Drew with Arizona. Chad's in the Final Four with Arkansas. That's where you see the matchup, right?
Yeah.
So you have them in the that would be a Sweet 16 matchup.
I've got them in the Final Four. I got Arkansas in the Final Four. I got them beating Arizona, beating Purdue to get to the Final Four, losing to Michigan in the Final Four. Let's talk about Alabama. Is there still time for Nate Oates to find a way to play Aiden Holloway in this game, even though he's been removed from campus?
I heard,
is there time for him to find a former player that's in the G League?
Hot tip, he tried to get that game moved back for another injunction to be filed.
Yeah, I mean, is this actually going to happen where he's going to go into a game without a guy who's been in trouble and not playing in it?
Oh, isn't that something? What a sad story, first of all. I mean, it's just so sad. And then you wondered, did the seeding? I guess they had no idea. Obviously they wouldn't receive the 4 when that story came out. But my goodness, so sad because
the timing of it is all.
I love watching Alabama play. I love the style of play that they play. I believe in the analytic driven approach that they deploy. Obviously, it's heavily based on their guards. And him not playing, obviously, it has an effect. And you have to think they would be considered for an upset watch 1,000%, whether it's in the first or second round.
How many? So, put your coaching hat back on here. How many threes do you want your team taking per game?
Ours at CPA was 30 plus,
okay.
which was 1 per minute, was what we were trying to do. Now, we led, go back to coaching.
Yeah.
So
you said analytics, I'm thinking
So I'll just tell you, this was our approach. And because we were very analytically driven early on before this even became a thing, I just think math. And so 10 of the 15 years, we led the state of Tennessee in scoring. And I'm not saying we had great talent all the time, but we tried to play to get 18 possessions a quarter, which was 72 possessions a game. We tried to shoot 30 to 35 threes every single game. And we thought if we hit 10 plus, we won 95% of the time. Like, it just hit.
And you did have great talent.
And we knew. Say what?
I said you did have great talent. We could say that. But yeah.
You had good shooters. You had great shooters.
To pull it off. I mean, the last year I was there as a high school basketball team, we were the second most prolific three-point shooting team in the country out of all high school basketball. We shot 41% from three as a team. We made 12.3 threes per game in high school basketball. That's insane.
See, that formula, though, to me, is if I'm High Point, if I'm any, I just want, you want one game like that.
Yeah.
Now that I'm not thinking Final Four run, I'm thinking like, I want that percentage. That's how you pull the upset, right?
And that's what Miami, when you start to think about it, it's a math game for them. What did he say last night?
40
we want to
plus.
shoot 43.
And they shot 41.
And they shot 41. They made 16. That's 38%. I think they shoot 38 to 39% for the year. So it's not like that's like astounding, but it's you shoot at that level and you get close to that 40% number, you're going to win if you hit double figure threes.
If you can get the possession numbers.
Right. Not turn the ball over.
Yep. So I've got Michigan winning.
Okay.
Chad, you have Houston, right?
I've got Houston.
Okay.
I keep waiting on the kind of Kelvin Sampson breakthrough with that team. And it almost feels like it's going to be in kind of a surprise year for them. This would be a surprise, obviously, if Houston won it this year. Are you going pretty chalky with your bracket?
I did. Yeah, I did. Absolutely. I had a hard time because obviously last year we saw all 4 ones. I did have Houston beating Florida just to put a 2 in the Final Four.
I'm just looking at mine. I'm like, my biggest run is like Miami. Like I've got them.
Miami, Florida.
Yeah. Well, and what do you do with St. John's? That's a team that everybody thinks it was underseeded.
Well, I think
by the analytics of it, Drew, I think Tennessee, Vandy, and St. John's were the 3 that were the most underseeded.
That's exactly what I was going to say. If you look at Kim Palm or you look at any sort of ranking, those 3 teams totally missed at least by 1 level, maybe even 2 levels could be argued for certain underseeded.
I want to buy A&M too.
Are they beating Kansas in the second round, Drew? No, St. John's?
I think so. I have St. John's in the Sweet 16 against Duke. I want to see that Rick Pitino Duke matchup. I want to see I want to see the Leitner shot over and over and over again. Like CBS is going to beat that drum.
What is his superpower? Like you study leadership. You talk about it all the time to businesses, and when I'm thinking about these legendary coaches, like what is, with some guys it's analytics, with some guys it's just a charisma. What is it about Rick Pitino that he wins at the highest level everywhere he goes?
Yeah, I think it's 3 things, and it's 3 C's. Number 1, it's his connection with his players. He is incredibly connected to those kids. Number 2, he leads and speaks with great clarity, unbelievable clarity. Understands, everybody knows role definition. They know exactly what's happening. He is brilliant in explaining the details behind what each person needs to do to maximize their role. And then the third piece is it takes leadership courage, but it's commitment. He gets unbelievable commitment and buy-in from the organization. Assistant coaches, trainers, support staff, players, it does not matter. You ask Ron Mercer to this day what it was like to play for Rick Pitino, he'll say, Drew, it was like an out-of-body experience every single day. That guy got the best of me every single day. And I believe it is the connection he has, the clarity that he speaks with, and then ultimately the leadership, courage, and commitment that he gains from everybody in the system and the program.
The young coaching aspect of this, and it may be unfair to compare to the veteran coach I'm going to use. Is there a Kirk Cignetti coach that's been overlooked or is under the radar that is just legit and can take over?
Oh, that's a good one.
Is
it
Mark Byington? With the James Madison connection?
It could be Mark Byington. There's already starting to be some rumors of what is next for him. Obviously, maybe it's just fear factor because Vanderbilt's done so good so quick, and the James Madison story. But when you start to look down this list, I'm just looking at teams. I'm just trying to run through it really quick. Obviously you hear the St. Louis guy. It would be one.
Okay.
I think Mark Byington would definitely be one. I think Nolan Smith at TSU. I think he's a rising star. I did.
We loved talking with him last week.
I did 6 or 7 of their games this year. I got to know him really well and watch his teams really close. I think that guy's an absolute star. Has the pedigree with being with Penny, being at Louisville, being at Duke. I would.
What do you think about Bucky Ball?
Well,
at A&M,
he's one of my best coaching friends, so I'm pretty biased. Going back to
it's okay. You can talk about someone who's your friend.
Yeah, going back to
play the Bruce Curl card. Here.
It is a problem. His style is a problem for opponents.
Yes,
he showed that in year 1.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, we had legendary. We played every year that he was at Mountain Brook High School and I was at CPA because we just knew it made us better, and we became great friends. He played in our Christmas tournament many years. I would go to Alabama many years, but I believe I'm buying in it. I believe it works. And once he starts to, guys, he started putting his roster together at the end of July last year. So this is a guy, just watch, get ready, buckle your seatbelts, or you're going to continue to fall in love with what he's doing there.
Tournament time, guys.
We're in love with Drew Maddox and what he does every time. This was fantastic.
This was our show shooting 31 threes.
There you go. I love it.
Very efficiently, though. We're well over 40%.
They're all
today.
assisted on. They're not off the bounce. We're playing the right way.
All the questions, all the takes, well over 40, 45%, I think, for the day.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I want to leave us with this. Best, when you were just in the zone, because you're a sharpshooter.
Yep.
What's the zone for a sharpshooter? What's the game where you're just like, I can literally make any shot I take right now, no matter where
I think
it
it's
is.
Shane Foster against Mississippi State.
At Alabama, my senior year, had one. It was my career high. I scored 34 that day, and I make 3 bombs coming down the stretch that were probably collectively an average about 26, 27 feet that were just out of my mind experience of making those shots.
What do you think when an NBA player scoring 84 or whatever?
83.
83.
Yeah, who we guarding, and is there any pride in what's happening?
Because you can have a career high scoring like you did.
I was shocked,
Drew.
I will
right?
say, my first reaction, I watched the highlights of it and see the whole game. So I was just seeing the very end, and they were actually double and triple teaming him and just fouling
nuts,
him.
man.
But I'm like, at least they're showing some pride to try to stop him.
God.
But you're
breaking
not
the record, at least late in the game.
But we're not talking about this being Steph or LeBron or Kobe. This is Bam Adebayo.
If we are listing players in the NBA,
to
I'll
pass
give you
Kobe.
100. Yeah, where would you put him on
I
that?
don't even know he scored points.
Yeah, exactly.
Based on his work with Team USA, I'm like, he's a rebounder and a shot blocker.
right.
I put Bronny
He's a
James would be
screener.
on my list. Hey, man, great to see you. Let's
Y'all
go
are
watch
the
some
best.
games, man.
Yeah. So fun. Thank you, guys. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Outkick Hot Mic.
Daily content and more at Outkick Hot Mic on YouTube.